Today is December 11th, 2010. I'm here with Pete Emblidge. My name's Victoria Skimmelhorn. So, can you give me your full name?
George Thompson, Emblidge.
Where were you born?
Buffalo, New York.
And your birthday?
March 15th, 1924.
Could you describe growing up there for me?
Well, it was just ordinary. I mean, there was no excitement, nothing special. I went to Washington Elementary School, and then to Kenmore Junior High School, and then Kenmore Senior High School. Kenmore was the town in which we lived, which was a suburb of Buffalo.
How about your family? Did you have any siblings?
No siblings, just me.
What about your parents? What did they do?
My father was a traveling salesman. He sold lots of things during my growing up, but principally he ended up as a chocolate salesman. He worked for the Wilbur Suchard Company, which was a Swedish firm selling types of chocolate here in the States. And my mother was, for the most part, a homemaker. She took care of my grandmother, who had cancer, breast cancer, and so she spent most of her life taking care of her. And then eventually, when my grandmother died, my mother went to work in a DuPont company, which made cellophane at the time. My father later on went there too, but principally he was a traveling salesman.
Did you hold any jobs during your childhood?
Not formally. We lived on a street that had we called them islands at the time, but an area in the middle of the street, went down the middle of the street that was planted with bushes, grass, and so forth. And during the Depression times, my father substituted his income with contracting with the homeowners of the street to care for the island, and so he took care of that. Well, when it was no longer necessary for him to supplement his income, I took that over, and I spent, I guess, most of my high school time taking care of the bushes and the lawn and all the plantings on this island down the middle of the street. It was great because I didn't have any formal looking for a job. It was there, and I just took it over from my father. And I didn't have any real employer. It was just a case of I'd collect the money I think it was once a year during the summertime. And that was it. I didn't have any people to give me pay stuff or anything of that nature.
How did the Depression affect your family?
Well, my father kept losing his job. Didn't really, well, it's not true, it's right to say, but at that point I was a youngster. I didn't really understand the economies of anything. If I had a quarter to go to the movies, that was all that really counted for me. But my father lost a couple jobs, and one remarkable one I thought was he worked for, what one was this? He worked for the company that made small guns, automatic guns, and he traveled a lot. He'd travel all week and be home on weekends, so the only time you'd see him really was for dinner on Saturday and Sunday night. And one weekend, we were all sitting at dinner and the doorbell rang, and so I went and answered it, and it was at that time, a telegram delivery, and it was from my father, so I brought it in, and he opened it up, and it was a notice to him telling him he was out of a job. That was it, that night. So he didn't have any place to go the next morning to work. And it was sort of a startling development, but he always managed to find something else and continued working. So we didn't really, from my point of view, didn't really suffer the way you heard of some people who did during the Depression. There was always food on the table, gas in the car, and we had a house over our heads.
Okay. How about, where were you on December 7th, 1941?
I don't really know. I'm sure I was in school, but I don't remember any particulars of it at all.
Do you remember how you felt, at least regarding Pearl Harbor?
That it shouldn't have happened, but it was just, I guess you'd say, kind of a turning point, and up until then I had not thought of wars or armies or being in the service or anything like that. I was just a kid having fun. But with December 7th, it sort of gave you an idea that, hey, I might end up in the service. And it was a turning point to that degree.
Were you in college at that point, or high school?
No, I was finishing high school.
Okay.
I put in, that was 41. I graduated in 42. And then I put in a semester of college before going in the service.
You went to college at Buffalo University or University at Buffalo?
Neither.
Neither?
At that point, I went to Buffalo State College,
Okay.
which today is, how can I say it?
SUNY?
Pardon me?
SUNY? S-U-N-Y?
It's part of that system now,
Okay.
same as the University of Buffalo.
Mhm. Okay. Why did you enlist?
To beat the draft, eventually, or essentially, if you enlisted, you had a reasonably good chance of getting into a part of the service that you wanted to. And my best friend and I decided we wanted to be Air Corps pilots. So we enlisted together, and we were both going to Buffalo State at that time, and we both left at the same time and went to the same fields. But that way we enlisted in the Air Corps, and we got into the Air Corps the way we wanted to. And if we had been drafted, it would have been at the government's choice as to where they wanted to put us. So we knew we were going to have to go anyway, so we might as well go to a place of our choice.
Did you have any problems enlisting?
Enlisting? No.
Did your family, how did they feel about that?
I never asked them specifically, but there wasn't much they could feel about it. They knew I was going to be drafted. I knew it, and we all knew I had to go. So there it was. Nothing to feel about it. I think maybe they didn't care to see me go, but.
Right. Why did you choose the Air Force? Why did you?
Like any youngster, I figured it would be more exciting.
Where did you go for basic training?
Atlantic City, on the boardwalk. They put us up in hotels right along the boardwalk. I can't remember now what the name of the one was I was in. But they'd take us out on the boardwalk for drilling, running, marching, and all the basic things to initiate you into the armed services. But it was strange too, because we went to Atlantic City, and then of course from there you went into whatever service you were going to, and into the primary beginnings of training. Well, we went to Atlantic City, and when our basic training there was completed, we were sent to various other training schools. The ones that my friend and I were sent to was Canisius College in Buffalo. So we went down to Fort Dix for a month for basic training and came right back to Buffalo for educational training.
What was that?
Pardon?
What was that?
Well, it was comparable to the 5th year of high school or the beginning of college. You took basic courses, English, arithmetic. That was the first time I had taken anything, like I took physics. I shied away from that in high school. I didn't like part of it, but there I was in the Army, so I took physics. But it was basic education, actually. Things that, subjects, physics being primarily the one, that the government figured would be useful to you in the endeavor you were seeking to get into. For instance, as a pilot for navigational purposes and that way, they felt physics would benefit me. Never did, but.
Training. You were trained to be a pilot. What exactly did they train you to do for pilot? Did you, like, what exactly?
Well, I went to primary, primary training. I've forgotten now. Well, it was down in a little bit north of New Orleans, and there they taught you the basic elements of how to fly a plane, and you trained in either a single wing plane or a bi-wing plane. And while we were there, they decided that the bi-wing planes were not that dependable. There were too many of them crashing, so they got rid of them. And we had an exercise where we all got in these bi-wing planes and flew them to a basic deportation center where they were discarded from the service. And I learned in a single wing plane. These are open cockpit planes. And it, of course, was the beginning of, hey, I'm going to be a pilot kind of thing, and it was quite exciting. It was probably, there was probably the only dangerous or exciting moment of my life. I found that on one weekend, you had weekends off, it was cloudy and not too nice a day, and my instructor came up to me and he said, how would you like to go up and do some stunt flying? And, oh boy, let's do this. So we went up into the clouds so that nobody really knew what we were doing. And we did loop-the-loops and rolls and all that sort of thing. And we came down, and I was just so full of excitement. It was really neat. I got out of the plane, and I went to unhook the safety belt, and it wasn't there. I didn't have any to unhook. And it dawned on me that I had never, when we went up, I had never fastened my safety belt, my seat belt. Well, when you're flying upside down, that kind of makes it a little touchy. You could fall out of the plane. And I got out of that plane, and I was one big jumble of nerves. That was the first time I ever smoked a cigarette. But it was fun, as long as I got down.
Wow. Well, you said that you never went overseas.
Right.
How? Why?
Well, I went all through, the different schools. I went, finished the primary, and then they sent you to a basic school based on the kind of plane that you were hoping or expecting to fly. Well, I had wanted to be in a single engine, single wing bomber type of plane. And so they sent me off to that school. I finished that, and then it was decided that that's not where I was going to go. They were going to put me through a twin-engine bomber, mid-level bomber. So we went through that, passed all that, and the last day of that school, we had finished everything. We were all set to go through the exercises for graduation, and we were just sitting around passing the time of day, and I was called into the office, and they washed me out. The reason they washed me out was because they felt that I did not have sufficient navigational abilities. So I got washed out of that, and then they had to do something else with me. So I don't think they asked me what I wanted. But I ended up in gunnery school. Well, in that instance, I was put through as a the chief gunnery sergeant on a bomber, on a B-17. And I was assigned to a crew. Then you go to a embarkation point, and you train there as a crew with the other people that have been assigned to that plane. And just as we were about to be shipped overseas as a crew in a B-17, the war in Europe ended. And so, well, gee whiz, now what do we do with them? So I had to go back through another course, another gunnery course. I went to gunnery school twice and was assigned to another crew and went to another embarkation school station. And as we were about to be shipped overseas into the Pacific, the war in the Pacific ended. So I didn't get to go there either. Shucks. But that's why I never went overseas. I kept going back and forth to schools and training centers, all that sort of stuff.
Did that frustrate you at all, or?
Oh yeah, when it did then, because I wanted the excitement that the other guys had. Like the buddy that I went in with, into the service with, he got through them all and got into fighter school. He went overseas and had a lot of fun. But I did. After I got out, I realized that while I missed out on this sort of thing, I still was very lucky because just as we were at the point that I was forced out of pilot school, the group that were in the same class, many of them, once they were graduated, were assigned to go to Europe, and they participated in the Ploesti oil fields, which was one of the biggest bombing and aircraft incidents in the war, and several of them didn't come back. So I could have gone the same way. So actually it was very lucky.
Yeah. Did you keep in touch with your family or anyone else back home during your training?
Oh yes, yeah. Letters were quite regular, and I had. I didn't. I was going to say I had a girlfriend, but not until the end.
What was it like in the plane that you trained in?
Plane?
Mm-hmm.
Crowded. Very crowded.
Okay.
Yeah, a little, several years ago, my wife and I went to an air show. I think it was here at Albany, where they displayed several of the aircraft from World War II. And they had a V-17 there. And so my wife and I went up through it, and she was shocked at how small it actually was, because back then this was thought to be the biggest and best of airplanes. It wasn't when you look at it from an outsider's point of view. But other than that, we had a pilot, co-pilot, and a bombardier and navigator, and we had a tail gunner, a belly gunner, an engineer, a radio man, and myself and another waist gunner. So I don't know how many that adds up to, but that was the size of the crew that you had. And it was just generally crowded. It seemed gigantic at the time because, like, you had a pilot and co-pilot, bombardier, navigator, and radio operator all up in the cockpit running the plane. And then you had a tail gunner way back at the end of the plane all by himself in this little bubble of a tail. And that made it seem like a a lot larger plane than it was. I had responsibility for all of the armament on the plane, which included all the machine guns and the ammunition and the bomb load. So I had to be sure that everything was okay when we left off and during the flight. One training flight we were on, we had dropped all of our bomb load except one bomb got, it didn't fall, but it still wasn't secured to the bomb rack. And so I had to go into the bomb rack with the bomb bays open, and I couldn't wear a parachute through it. There wasn't enough room. So I had to go through there and anchor this bomb that was still with us so that we could land safely. That was exciting. But you spend an awful lot of time with your sitting on your duff with your back against the wall of the plane, sleeping until you got to where you were going to be. And then the activity then was seeing that the bombs went off and that you were able to shoot at the fighters coming in at you.
Now, what position gunner were you? You were
Waist gunner.
waist gunner?
Yes.
Okay, that's very. What about the embarkation site? Where did you stay? What were the facilities like?
They were generally regular government bases. That there were barracks for you to stay in, and grounds for you to do your calisthenics. Just a regular government site, no different than any other army base.
Did you have any good friends during the war, the training time?
At the time, yes. Yeah.
Did you keep in contact with them?
No.
No?
One of them I did in Buffalo. He had a flower shop. And I'd see him a few times a year, but there was no, we didn't make any attempt to keep in touch.
Were there any memories that you have, like, particularly vivid that stand out to you? Anything funny?
No, nothing other than what I've told you.
Okay. What was the highest rank that you held?
Sergeant.
Sergeant?
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna ask.
What?
I forgot what I was gonna ask.
Oh.
Did you have anything you really fought for personally? Well, what you trained, what you wanted to go over and fight
During
for?
the service?
Yeah.
No, I was just basically a gunner and I was a bomber.
Well, you were obviously at your embarkation site when the war ended in Europe, and then again in the Pacific.
Right.
How did you feel when the war ended on both sides?
Well, it was kind of a combination of joyous in the fact that you didn't have to go, and disappointment in the fact that you weren't going to see the excitement you'd planned on.
What was your opinion on the atomic bombing?
On the what?
On the atomic bombing of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
At the time, I didn't have any opinion other than this will end the war faster and I can go home faster.
Right.
whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, I didn't care. I was a kid.
What was drawing you home so much? I know, obviously, people want to go home, but...
Well, like you say, I just wanted to go home.
Right.
I'd been home, I think, probably 3 times on furlough. But it's strange, too, that as I was in the service and away from home, away from Buffalo, I came to think that, gee, Buffalo was a pretty nice place as a result of all the places that I saw while I was away. So my family was here. I had to continue my education, and I just wanted to go home.
What did you end up doing after the war when you did come home from training?
Well, I changed my my plan, so to speak, as far as education is concerned. I didn't go back to Buff State. I went to the University of Buffalo, and I took a business administration course there and got married.
When did you meet your wife?
Well, I had known my wife for quite some time. We both went to the same school together. Not together, I mean, she was younger than I, but I knew her through other acquaintances. She was the girl that I was going with, was a member of the same sorority as she. And so I had known her, but she went with a study with another fella, and everyone expected she was going to marry him, but he was killed overseas. And when I came back, well, it was just a year. I came home on a Christmas furlough in 43. And I happened to meet up with her, and we got together. I had 4 days left on the furlough, so we had 4 dates. And at the end of the 4th date, I asked her to marry me, and then I went back into the service until I was discharged. I was discharged in February of 46. And we were married in September of 46. And that was it. I went back to school, and she continued her job. And when I finished school, she quit her job. And we raised a family from that point.
How did your experiences during the war affect your life afterwards? Did it have that big of an impact, or?
The only impact it had was to make me change my course of studies.
What were you originally studying?
I had originally intended to become an art teacher, and that's why I went to Buff State into their art program. And while I was away, I realized that that was not for me, so when I came back, I got into business ad over UB. That took me into a sales career.
Okay. When you were in training, did you have a sense of the enemy, more or less? Like, was there anyone you really felt, I'm going to go when I finally get there? Who was the enemy to you?
It was just another body. I mean, he was a German, and then he became a Japanese. But I couldn't relate them to any one or type individually.
Okay. Let me see. Is there anything else you could tell us about training or?
Regarding what?
I don't know, anything you think we might have missed? Any part of the story that you want to tell?
No, I think we've covered it quite well, but it's just an ordinary life. Speak up, it's okay.
Please.
What were your views on FDR? Did you have any?
FDR?
Yep, that's
He's a great guy. Well, let's put it this way. I am, and always have been since the day of I turned 21, a registered Republican. But I voted for FDR in 2 instances. So he was a very dynamic person. And like everyone, he had his shady sides as well as his good sides.
How did you feel when he died?
When he died,
Yeah.
great loss. But it's just too bad that a great man died. There's nothing I could do about it. So.
What were your exact dates of service? Well, general, exact.
I went in February of 43, and I came out in February of 46. Specific days I can't tell
Okay. Going back to training again, what was it, the feeling between you and your crew? Like, were you guys good friends, or were there any hostilities, or was it just...
In as much as I didn't have a lengthy time with the crew, we were, in each instance, we were merely assigned to each other as a crew, and we flew a few training missions as a crew. We did not establish any really close relationships because we didn't have the time. Had we gone overseas and flown 25 missions, it would have been a totally different case.
Could you describe like flying exercise or training mission, basically?
It was technically the same as a regular mission. You were piped out, got into the planes, took off, and you flew for several hours to the destination that you had to go to. and then you made a point of dropping your bombs and fighting off the fighters that were attacking the plane. It was dull to a point that you had excitement for a few minutes of the flight, then you came back. The training missions were developed to mimic these actual flights.
So you had actual fighter planes trying to basically shoot down your plane?
Uh-huh.
Was it basically other units trying to train to be
They were fighter pilots.
fighters?
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Well, this question, I'm going to read it straight off the paper. It says, describe for our young people why they should not regard World War II as ancient history, detached and irrelevant. Why do you think we need to learn about this time so long ago, before we were born?
Well, one, because it should never have happened. There were people that made it happen, and these kinds of people should be rescued and deterred from this kind of thinking. Everyone should be aware of the fact that World War II did happen, why it happened, and how it may have been prevented.
Okay. Did you think America made must have been FDR, but do you think he made the right choice going into war?
Well, basically I'm an isolationist. I think that each country should take care of their own problems. Like now, there's countries begging us to come and start wars with the terrorists that are in those countries. And I don't believe that. I believe that individual countries should maintain their own right or wrong, fight their own battles within their own countries. Everybody in the world would say I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel.
I understand your position on it. Well, I think that's all that I really can ask. What about you? Do you have any more questions? Okay.
Sorry I don't have anything exciting to tell you.
No, honestly, that was very interesting to me. Okay.
Well, as long as you're not going to go out and sign up for the draft, I guess they don't have a draft anymore, do they?
No. Not yet, at least. No. Okay. Well, I have a release form I need you to sign, please. You can read through it, but it just basically asks you if we can use your interview for my project and in the future, because these interviews are going to be archived for others to look at.
Mm-hmm.
If that's okay, then.
Sure.
Okay. I have a pen in my coat.
I have one.
Okay.